Lights, camera,
Rolling.
action.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hi, I'm Joe, and this is the Filmjoe podcast, where film talk happens. Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Daisy.
And welcome to the podcast where we talk about films, filmmakers, trends, the good, the bad, and the not so bad, all in the spirit and for the love of film. So, this week, there are two realms outside of the known and the normal. There is the paranormal, and then there is the weird. But sometimes there is something in between. It's the para-weird. So, let's get weird. More than usual.
Hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with being weird.
Exactly. The weird can be called the norm and vice versa. So who knows, right?
It's like all about perspective.
Absolutely. So we got a couple of gems here, a couple of good ones that I haven't seen in years. It's been a long time, and it's going to be interesting because I definitely came away with a different view on these two films than I did initially. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. So, but before we continue, please beware, especially with one of these, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen any of these films, you may want to pause this, watch the movies, return, or you may enter at your own risk. It's all up to you. But I almost feel bad, spoiling the second film we're going to cover, but we'll get to that.
Either one, they've been out for like forever.
Yeah, so it's like, unless you've been hiding under a rock or something, you got no excuse.
No excuse.
No excuse. So, I just, guess what I just saw? I went to the movies yesterday.
Oh, what you see?
I went to go see Gladiator 2.
Ooh, my boy Pedro, he's in that movie, isn't he?
Yes. And I'm releasing, actually, at the time of the release of this episode, I would have already released a flash review of it. So, but basically, it's a damn good film, but it's not great.
Aw.
Yeah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, well, it's a trip because the movie is a victim of its own doing, in that it's a sequel to what many consider, and I consider, a masterpiece.
Exactly. Big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill, or big sandals rather. And the film really, it's epic, it's big, it's beautifully shot. The battle sequences are amazing, the fighting, but it doesn't have the emotional heart or the emotional punch that the original film does, the first film, where you feel the sadness in the so and I think that's kind of due to the fact that it doesn't have the same composer for the score.
Right. Oh, you know what? And yeah, you're right about that. The score of a movie it gives it the feel, and especially if it's a sequel, you want to keep that.
Yeah, it's the flavor of the film, the tone, and so it's missing that. And the script does feel rushed, and the only time it gets you emotionally is when they either do a flashback or they do a score cue to the original score.
Oh wow!
And that's when you feel it, but it's only for a few seconds. And without saying, Pedro Pascal is fucking amazing in this movie. He is great.
Oh, he is awesome. Everything I've ever seen him in, he's freaking awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah, and Denzel Washington, he's also in this, and he kind of hams it up a bit, and it's kind of distracting. I mean, he
It's
does.
Denzel, you know.
Denzel's the man. Is like, he's a great actor, but I think he kind of does bring it down a bit. It kind of feels like a Disney direct-to-video sequel kind of thing.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, but it's not a bad film. But like I gave it on my flash review, I gave it a solid 7, which is not
Sure.
bad. It's a good film, but just
Right.
not. But with the title of Gladiator and a director like Ridley Scott, it has to be a great film. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it just falls short. So
Yeah, and like you say, you're comparing it to a masterpiece. The first one is, total masterpiece. Big shoes to fill or sandals. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. So I'm sure if you maybe as a standalone.
yeah, I think had it not been connected, if it was a completely, totally different film. Also missing from this is the element of the hero's journey. Um,
Right.
and we experienced that with Maximus in the
Mhm.
original film. He's a much beloved and respected general and a warrior, and he has the respect of the emperor, and possibly could be the very next emperor. And you see him go from that to slave to gladiator to hero and
Mhm.
unifier of the Roman Empire. And so you see that character arc, that journey he takes from beginning to end.
Mhm.
um and that is sorely missing here. I forgot the name of the actor. I feel like a dumbass, who played Lucius, his son, in this.
Right.
um he's established as a warrior and a kick-ass fighter. Like, it takes like 5 minutes into the film or 10 minutes, and okay, he's a warrior, he's a badass, boom, okay, let's move on.
Okay, yeah, seriously rushed.
Yeah, exactly. But aside from that, it is a very enjoyable film, and it has a lot of positive responses. I mean, the average score out there is about a 7 to a 7.5. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to totally take a shit on it. It's not a bad film, but just if you go when you watch it, keep that in mind. It's not the same. It's a different feel.
Yeah, yeah, if you go in with, high expectations, you probably will be disappointed.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I kind of was, but I had to give the movie a fair shake overall and say, as like you said earlier, as a standalone, it would have worked,
Right.
and not connected to the whole mythos of Maximus and the Gladiator film that preceded it. So,
Yeah, because I
uh,
mean, you have a great cast and everything, but
yeah, well, I think the cast in the original was far superior, and I think that's another thing that,
mm.
what are the names of the those two YouTube idiots that one of them fought Tyson, Jake Paul and Logan
Oh
Paul?
god, man, yeah.
Yeah, those are the emperors in this one.
Are
Okay,
you fucking kidding
they
me?
they look like Jake and Logan. I mean, like a couple of idiots.
I seriously thought you were oh god.
It was fucking hilarious. And so it was a little bit cringy with those performances. But yeah, other than that, it's not. I'd recommend it. I mean, just watch it and give it a fair shake and keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love Pedro Pascal. I mean, he's an amazing actor.
Yeah,
So,
and he's great. He's great. I have a total man crush on that guy. He's badass.
oh yeah, he is awesome.
All right, so we do have a listener question that
Oh.
was sent to us. Now, I'm going to warn you, this is a heavy one, so you're going to have to do some thinking. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. So don't worry. There's this thing called editing. So okay,
Nice.
clean up all the empty spots. Okay. So this is from Rod, Rodrigo from Cali. Um, he says, I wanted to ask you if you can recall an impactful movie scene that shows in a very dramatic and super effective way a character expressing without words the difficulties or the frightful truths of their actions or of their fate, emotions, empathy, horror, anxiousness. Kind of like the scene from Oppenheimer, with Killian Murphy. He realizes that this marvel that he brought into the world can possibly end it. So something like that. I told you it was a heavy fucking question.
Holy Jesus. Okay, you go ahead and you answer that. Holy
Okay.
shit.
Well,
You know what? And maybe I might be inspired by your By your
Okay.
answer.
All right. All right. I'd have to say, and I did have some time to think about it.
Yeah, you
Uh,
just dropped this shit on me, so you go right ahead.
For me, there's a scene in the film Jaws from 1975 where Quint, played by Robert Shaw, towards the end of the climax when the orca, the boat they're on, is getting attacked by the shark and it's getting torn apart, and he comes down to below deck to grab some stuff to fight the shark off,
Mhm.
and there's water seeping in, and this was preceded, by the way, where there's seen he has a speech about the USS Indianapolis with the sharks eating all the survivors of the ship that got hit by a torpedo,
Right,
and
right.
and he was one of them, and he basically said at the end of that speech that he swore that for the rest of his life, if need be, he would never use a life jacket ever again, so
Mhm.
that he can die quickly instead of
Right.
waiting to be eaten.
Mhm.
So with that being said, he comes below deck, and he stops and he pauses and he looks around. And this is a badass motherfucker. This is Quint, the shark killer,
Yeah.
and his face is like a look of dread sweeps across his face of and also within that an acceptance of his fate. He knows what's going to happen to him. He knows that this is where this is the end, and he of course he looks over at the life jackets and gets just two, one for Brody and one for Hooper.
Mhm.
And but that scene, you're looking at his face, you see in his eyes the dread and the almost again the acceptance of his fate. And
Without saying a word.
yeah, fearful but also brave at the same time. It's like, okay, motherfucker, you can eat me. This is you're gonna do it, but I'm not gonna give you an easy I'm gonna give you a fight.
Right.
Yeah, so for me, that's the one scene that really sticks out, or one of them that comes to mind when I read that question.
Wow. Yeah, and that's acting at its best when you can kind of tell a story just, with expression, with with your body language.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, it's amazing. So what
Mhm.
about yourself?
Okay, you just dropped this shit on me right now. I have nothing. I am sorry, Rob. It's Joe's fault.
Okay, Rodrigo. Well, you're gonna get half an answer from me, so there you go. Yeah, I
Jerk.
was gonna front load it, but I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll drop it on you, see how it is.
I mean, you know what though? The closest I got was what movie was that? Legends of the Fall, I wouldn't say. Where Brad Pitt is crying in somebody's arms. I just remember you saying that he looked like he was constipated.
Yeah, yeah, that's the constipated Brad Pitt look. So for anybody, people, look up this scene. Great film, by the way. Legends of the Fall. Great cast. And
Yes.
there's a scene where Brad Pitt is crying, and it looks like he's trying to really push one out.
You know what? And I love that scene. I mean, back in the day, that was my boy. He was my first crush.
Yeah, no,
And yeah, and I thought, oh, I just wanted to hug him, to console him, and you come out with this bullshit.
well, you just give him a laxative or something,
And now every time I see that scene, I can't get that out of my head.
because it's true. Oh God! All righty, all righty. So, what do you say we get into this week's episode?
All right, let's do this.
All right, let's get Para-Wierd. So now for our first film, It Never Forgives, It Never Forgets.
Your first visit alone. Just make sure she has what she needs and help out around the house.
It is said in Japan that when a person dies in extreme sorrow or rage, death becomes a part of that place, killing everything.
Hello? I've been in that house. So have you. there's something else there with us.
An American nurse living and working in Tokyo is exposed to a mysterious supernatural curse, one that locks a person in a powerful rage before claiming their life and spreading to another victim. The film we're talking about is The Grudge from 2004, and it is directed by Takashi Shimizu. The film stars Michelle Gellar, Jason Bear, and Clea Duvall. So, for this first film, I'm going to keep it simple. We're going to rate it on the Filmjoe scale on a scale of 1 to 10 curses.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah. Keep it simple, to the point, on the nose. All right?
Okay. All right. All right. Sounds good.
All right. So let's get into some brief production backstory. Takashi Shimizu, he's the director and the creator of the original film, Ju-On. So when they decided to do the American version, he was hired to direct the American version with a screenplay by Steven Susko, bringing in Sam Raimi of the Evil Dead fame and Drag Me to Hell, coming in to produce through Ghost House Picture, along Robert Tappert, who was a co-producer with Sam Raimi. Principal photography on the film began around January 26, 2004, with reshoots occurring in July in Tokyo, Japan. And they had to bring in Sarah Michelle Gellar to film her scenes there as well within for the reshoots. The film was finally released on October 22nd of 2004. So, okay, let's get. You want to go first with your take, because I have a very unique take on this one.
Okay, well, you know what? I saw this when around the time that it came out. I only saw it once, and the first time around, I was very confused. It was a very confusing movie, and
Yes.
it was hard to piece together. I saw what they were trying to do. They kept, there was moments where they would go back into the past and jump to the future, and then they'll jump to like totally different characters. And the jump scares, though, they were on point. Right off the very first jump scare, I'm a weenie. I actually did jump this time around. And I was so disappointed in myself. And I saw the original Ju-On,
Right.
and it's they really didn't change much. I want to say that they filmed in the same places.
Yeah, I was always curious about that because I'd never got to see Ju-On, the original version, and so you say so. Pretty much, it's kind of a carbon copy, right?
It's basically a carbon copy. There's not
Wow.
much difference to it, except Sarah Michelle Gellar is not in the other one. Just different actors, but it's pretty spot on.
Wow. Well, for me, I first saw it in 2004, and it did scare the shit out of me. That first scene where the first caretaker, the Japanese girl,
Yes.
and she's looking, she hears noises in the closet, and she opens up, and boom, you get that nasty scare.
That's the one. That's the one that made me shit my pants.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I did nearly shit the first time I saw it. That's one thing I liked about the film was initially upon watching it, the first time, was that it did use a lot of jump scares, but it also gave you that atmospheric, creepiness as well, kind of the lead up, which I did like. But you know what? I can see what you're talking about. I mean, it does a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
You got the woman waking up with her husband, and he takes a leap off the balcony. And then you go to the old woman and the Japanese caretaker. Then you go to Sarah Michelle Gellar's storyline where she starts her job there. Then you got the married couple with the old, with their mother and the old woman.
Yeah. At least I knew who they were. There was
Mhm.
one woman, the one that was being chased around the building, and that got sucked into her bed, which
Which was a
I
great
love that
fucking
fucking scene. Yes.
Yes. One of the best.
But who the hell was she?
Okay. I'm glad you said that, because when I was watching it, I did kind of like for a couple seconds look at my phone for something, and then this is going on. I'm like, who the fuck is she? Because I'm taking notes. I'm like, who the fuck is this broad? And I can admit, I thought I missed something. So they really was she a volunteer at the hospital or what?
Yeah, I was at a total loss. I mean, like I said, the best, actually, I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie. You know,
Mhm.
she's, trying to run from this thing. She's at work, she runs from it. Now she runs to her apartment, and the safest place apparently is your bed and your
Under
blankets. So, so she gets under the fucking blankets, and when she looks under, oh my god.
Yeah, and it was a genius setup because, like you say, you hit the nail on the head. We generally associate our bed and blankie as a safe space,
Yeah.
A- and this motherfucking ghost just kind of invades that space and is like, it scared the shit out of me. I, re- I saw this in the theater, and when that scene came up and I screamed, and I'm sure somebody was like in the back rows going, "Who's that woman who screamed?"
It's
I'm like, that was me, man. You know,
with the butch voice.
yeah, man. But it was a great scene. It really was.
Oh
But
my god.
I didn't see the connection to anything. It looked like it was kind of thrown in.
Yeah, it did.
Um,
It did.
yeah, and another thing that did throw me off was Bill Pullman, who is a star. He's a well-known actor, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and he's like, oh, it is Bill Pullman. Oh, what's he got? Oh, he fucking jumped off the balcony. The
Uh,
fuck?
yes, they killed Bill Pullman. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and I think there was kind of a formula that would, I don't know, maybe that was kind of like pioneered by Alfred Hitchcock with
Mhm.
Psycho, when Janet Leigh gets killed in the shower, who was a major star at the time, and
Right.
people didn't see that coming. So maybe that was the point. I don't know, but again, it did seem fragmented. Yet it connected, but it did. I mean, granted, it all comes together at the end, but it's
Except for the woman.
yeah, except for that woman with the blanket, which was a great scene, but it's more like I say, it comes together eventually, and it is
Yeah.
kind of paced like a mystery, and it's a ghost mystery is what it is,
Mhm.
uh, and it comes together piece by piece. We're being exposed to this and that, but like you said, it was just kind of confusing,
Yeah.
jumping back and forth, and it did throw me off.
Yeah, and I thought this time, because like I said, I saw it once before when it first came out, so I figured, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna watch this again. It's gonna make sense this time.
Hmm.
And yeah, it just it felt just the same as when I first saw it. It was very confusing. But like I said, I did enjoy little cat boy, creepy little fucker. You know,
Right.
and this time I was able to understand more of what exactly happened and why these tortured souls are coming back and just wreaking havoc on everybody else. So at least for that,
Yeah, I mean, to its credit, it does come out. It comes together at the end,
hmm
and but it's all these fragments that we're presented with. They're too, they're not, stitched together tight enough to go okay, to give you give you a segue and go okay. I kind of see where this is going. You just kind of like left to figure it out on your own, and that did kind of throw me off.
yeah, and you would think that because it was a Japanese movie, maybe it was kind of lost in translation or something. But I went ahead and I watched the Japanese version, and I'm like, it's the same.
Right, right. I mean, um, what one thing that it did like, which by the way, the whole hospital scenes and some stuff like that. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of that was, I don't know. To me, it came across like a mystery horror video game,
Yeah, kind of like a Silent Hill.
kind of like a Silent Hill, more like something along that line, but not exactly.
Right, right.
But yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I watched it, I loved it. But I
Mhm.
think I was just going off
The
the
scares.
individual, the scares, and you know what, the style of horror that we were presenting was that Japanese horror.
Yeah, it was new. It's totally new.
Yeah, what are the hip kids nowadays call it? J horror or whatever.
I don't
Uh,
know.
I don't know.
I'm not cool enough anymore.
Yeah, but and I think that was the appeal at the time to American audiences, was that it was a different style of horror, and it was unique. And that's why we had Ringu or the Ring that came out
Yeah.
later on, and so
What
forth.
was Ringu by the same person?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so.
I would think so, but
Yeah, it does have the same kind of feel to it. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it just didn't work for me. Again, I loved it the first time around, but I think I was just going off the scares and the stylistic, you know, uh, tone and
mhm.
atmosphere, and it did work. But and also like I love the climax. I mean, when that creepy chick is crawling down the stairs and she's doing the like we
Oh,
heard in the
do you remember you used to torture me with that stupid sound?
yeah, it was funny.
It
You'd
was,
get pissed off.
it was annoying. It was, that's what he. No, I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, that's where he got it from.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah. And I mean, the more annoyed you got, the more
You
I
did
did it.
it.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty much. I remember you would call on the phone and you just do that shit.
You're like, hello.
Like, fuck you. Click.
Oh gosh. But I mean, you kind of break it down. There's three core elements to this film. You got the curse, the house, and Karen
Mhm.
Davis, which is played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. And but there's a lot of empty space between, which is why it just felt disjointed and kind of fragmented overall.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I know you're a big fan of Buffy the Vampire
Oh,
Slayer.
oh hell yeah. Yeah, that's my girl.
Okay. Sarah Michelle Gellar was so bland and underwhelming in this. Now, I don't know if it was a cultural difference because it's a Japanese director who generally worked with Japanese actors. I don't know.
She
But
was out of her element,
I mean,
you
she
know.
was like, yeah, literally white bread. And for
Dude,
real.
dude.
Yeah. Yeah. She was dull. And she's not a bad actress.
No, she's not. But I mean,
All right, so let's get some key elements and or performances that stood out for us. I mean, for me, what stood out was the pacing. I love the slow creep and the chilling setups for the payoff shots. I mean, he does give us the the standard jump scares, but he builds it up slowly and creepy, almost like a creaking door. I love that. To me, the subtle score and the sound design was really, really outstanding. The creaking of the doors, the foot pound, footsteps, things like that. It was very unnerving, and of course, the
mhm,
cinematography. In some scenes, it was kind of like washed out and kind of like bland,
mhm,
which is really cool. It was almost ghost like. So, I mean,
right.
to me, those are the things that stood out. The key elements or performances that stood out.
For me, it was just, it was, like it's like we were saying before, it's something that was totally new, a different style of horror that even today we're still talking about it. You see, goofy little prank videos of, little girls dressed up, like that chick from the attic.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. So it definitely made a cultural impact, even down to what was a scary movie. They
Yeah,
did
exactly.
but yeah, I mean definitely impactful and influential.
Mhm.
But to me it just didn't live up to my own expectations from when I first saw it. I mean, I used to rank this way up there as one of the scariest movies I'd ever seen.
Oh, no, no, come on, man. You gotta know what's one of the scariest movies ever.
Well, this it's The Exorcist. Yeah.
Exactly, yes, and of course, Terrifier 1.
Terrifying one. Or the Conjuring, the very first one was
Mhm.
I mean that scared the living shit out of me. It was a lot of fun. So yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go into the box office and budget on this.
Okay.
So the budget at the time was about $10 million, which today is about 16.7.
Mhm.
And box office at the time of release was 187.2 million, which is about $312 million in today's money.
Damn.
Uh, yeah, so it did really, really well, and I think that's attributed to the fact that we had never seen something like that before. It's a new type of horror.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So reviews and scores. The film received roughly, I'd say about average to not so good reviews, about 41% positive. The average rating on this thing was about 5.1 out of 10.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And Roger Ebert, he gave this film 1 star out of 4.
Oh come. Okay. I mean, it wasn't the best ever, but 1 star.
Yeah, well, he said, I'm not sure how most of these scenes fit in the movie. I
Uh,
do, however, understand the underlying premise. There's a haunted house, and everybody who enters it will have unspeakable things happen to them. Eventually, I just lost all patience because it was so fragmented in its structure. Which, you
okay.
know what?
Yeah, I can't. I really can't argue with that.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess yeah, because I mean, you're trying to get into it, you're trying to figure it out. I mean, you know, it's a puzzle, but you're being dragged and so forth here and there. So yeah, it gets frustrating. And if it wasn't for those amazing scares and effects, this movie would have been just
It would have
to
been
me
nothing.
much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So IMDb, this film is sitting at a 5.9. Metascore, it has a Metascore of 49. Rotten Tomatoes critic score 40, audience 46%, and Letterbox has this at a 2.8 out of 5.
Shit.
Yeah, so yeah, it really wasn't really received that well. But again, it was the novelty that reflected in its box office,
Hmm.
and not the quality. I mean, it's like something new, something different. I mean, we'd had our slasher films, we'd had our all other kind of films of horror. We
Yeah.
This was something pretty new
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Tough.
now sequels and spin-offs. Now get ready for this. This is a good one.
Okay.
Um, so basically, we know this is a remake of Ju-on from 2000. Okay,
Right.
so and it's based on the Ju-on series. So there was a direct-to-video film,
Mhm.
which is where it started through V Cinema. And in 2000 they came out with The Curse. I mean, Ju-on the Curse, and then 2000, the same year, Ju-on the Curse 2.
Hmm.
Um, so of course we have 2002 Ju-on the Grudge, which was a theatrical remake of the direct-to-video version.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Wow.
you follow me? Yeah, it's just all over the place,
It's
and then
fragmented.
it's fragmented and disjointed. And then in 2003 you have Ju-on the Grudge 2, and then in 2009 you
Mm.
have Ju-on Black Ghost, Ju-on White Ghost. That was, I guess, in Japan. And then we have the US series, which is The Grudge 2004, The Grudge 2, 2006, The Grudge 3, 2009, and
Oh,
a remake in 2020, The Grudge.
the fuck? Where the hell was I when all this happened?
I know, but wait, there's more. There's there's the reboot series, Ju-on the Beginning of the End in 2014, and Ju-on the Final Curse in 2015. Yeah.
Gee, is that
So
it?
that's it. I mean, that's
Jeez,
wow, that's like 12 films altogether. That's crazy.
that is
And
nuts. They milked the hell out of that.
oh yeah, yeah, that's a dry cow right there. Um, yeah. Alrighty, so let's get what our ratings. You go first.
Okay, so I think it was. I like the way it was filmed. I like the grays, the colors that they that they filmed it in.
Mhm.
Kind of gloomy.
Yeah.
It set a mood for it. I'm trying to be nice because, to be honest, I really didn't care for it this time around.
Right.
It had a really good backstory. I think the best part of the film are the jump scares.
Right.
The scary, creepy, people. I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna give it 6 curses.
All right, all right, fair enough, fair enough. Now I'm kind of torn. I mean, I really liked this movie the first time I saw it. I
Hmm.
really loved it, and it was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Uh, but at the same time, I feel I liked it less this time. So,
yeah,
you know, maybe it was the unique horror style at the time. It was novel. So I'm gonna give this 6.5 out of 10 curses.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's like I said, it was beautifully filmed. I love that
mhm,
they filmed it on location. The style was great. very innovative for its time. It was, it took us by storm. But yeah, when we first saw it, it was cool, but it didn't hit right. This time
Yeah,
around.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. Alrighty, so let's move on to our next.
Okie dokie.
All right, so next up, you can't run from your own mind.
Let me look at your hand. You have a very strange line. See, according to this, you're already dead.
Something's wrong, Jake. They're coming after me. I don't know who they are or what they are, but they're gonna get me, and I'm scared, Jake.
I've seen them too.
Maybe the demons are real.
It's running 106 feet.
This is barbaric.
I can get rid of the demons.
Who are you?
I can block the ladder.
Where are you taking me? Where am I?
Where do you want to go?
Home.
This is your home. You're dead.
I'm not dead.
What are you then?
I'm alive.
Mourning his dead child, a haunted Vietnam War veteran attempts to uncover his past while suffering from a severe case of disassociation. To do so, he must decipher reality and life from his own dreams, delusions, and perceptions of death. The film we're talking about here is Jacob's Ladder from 1990, and it is directed by Adrian Lyne. Who brought us a couple of really good films, Fatal Attraction and Flashdance. And it is written by Bruce Joel Rubin, who also gave us another paranormal film called Ghost the same year.
Oh.
So the film stars Tim Robbins, Elizabeth Pena, and Danny Aiello. So for this film, we're going to be rating this on the Filmjoe scale of 1 to 10 dog tags.
Okay, that sounds good.
All righty. So let's get into some backstory here. The film, the title itself, Jacob's Ladder, refers to a biblical story of Jacob, the story of Jacob's Ladder, which is, or the dream of a meeting place between heaven and earth from Genesis 28:12. Before writing his script for Jacob's Ladder and Ghost, which was realized around 1990, of course, the Jewish-born Rubin spent 2 years in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery in Nepal. So he got very spiritual, obviously. I mean, to be inspired, by these two great scripts. Previously, he had written afterlife-themed scripts for Brainstorm and Deadly Friend, which was directed by Wes Craven, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah, it's a damn good film. Rubin's work on Jacob's Ladder started around 1980, and it was sparked by a nightmare in which he dreamt about being trapped in a New York City subway station. For several years, Rubin tried to sell the script with no success. He was immediately given offers from studios specializing in low-budget horror productions, but insisted on holding out in favor for being, picked up by a better, much better funded kind of studio and directors. The script began attracting a lot of attention at that point, and it got listed as one of an American Film Magazine as a top 10 unproduced screenplays. So it got a reputation in the industry. So finally, Tom Mount of Universal Pictures, he read it and he said, loved it, but it was not for his studio. So they passed. And so in 1988, Adrian Lyne, who described Rubin's work as certainly one of the best scripts that he had ever read, decided then he's just going to direct it instead. And, he was supposed to do another film called Bonfires of the Vanities, based on a Thomas Wolfe novel, which was with Bruce Willis, Tom Hanks. It was a big, big movie, which totally tanked at the box office.
Ouch.
Yeah, so he skipped that one in order to do this film. So this was still at Paramount, so at Paramount, the ownership and policy changes at Paramount, because it was going to go through Paramount finally. They had ownership changes and so forth. it resulted in the cancellation of the film. The executive
Oh.
they had doubts about the film's ending,
Oh.
scenes taking place in Vietnam. They had a lot of issues with it, and it wasn't until independent film studio Kuroko Pictures.
Mhm.
Remember them? They did all the commando movies and shit like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, which is so they decided to take over the project, over the production, and they gave Adrian Lyne a lot of creative control, which was not something that most studios would have given him.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a plus. So Ruben then from that point became producer along with Mario Casar, Alan Marshall, and Andrew Vanja, who were the main dudes over at Korolko. And believe it or not, this film served as a major inspiration for the game Silent Hill.
Yes. Yes, you freaking nailed it. Yeah, because there's a sequence where he's in the subway station and he's trying to
Yes.
get out, and he just can't, and that just totally reminded me of Silent Hill,
Yeah.
which it's a freaking creepy ass movie, which actually kind of takes place in limbo, I want to say.
Yeah, it definitely does. So finally the film was released on November 4th, 1990. So
Mhm.
before we continue, I want this is pretty cool. There do you remember the scene in the jungle when there's a scene, it's a flashback, because
Uh-huh.
what happens is it starts off, let's give a preface of this film because it's a very complex film overall.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
and it's basically Tim Robbins. He's in Vietnam with his other soldier, his brothers in arms, and they fall under attack, and there's a big firefight and so forth. And he's running through the jungle, and somebody comes out of the jungles and stabs him with a bayonet in the gut.
Yes.
And then he wakes up later on, and he's on the subway. So obviously, this is years after the war, and he's a
Mm.
post office worker. He's a postman,
Yeah.
and so from that point on, strange shit starts to happen in his life. He starts having hallucinations and so forth, and that's kind of like the setting for the film. Now,
Mhm.
there is a flashback where he's in the jungle and he's all wet, and it's at night and he's in the rain.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember this scene?
Yeah, yeah, he looks up and he sees a spider web
Right, and
right over him.
it's at night, and you hear whistling sounds in the jungle.
Right.
You know what they were?
Mm.
Frogs, coquis.
Cookies! Yes! Yes! Oh my god, I knew it!
Now, for those of you who don't know what the coquis is, the coquis is the national, I guess, mascot or symbol of Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful little tiny frog
I knew
that
it.
that whistles at night, like,
Oh, that was
and
horrible.
that was horrible. But there's millions of them in the rainforest in Puerto Rico, and at night is the most beautiful sound you can hear.
Mhm.
So when watching this, I'm like, oh nah, they filmed this in Puerto Rico, and they did. They filmed it in Puerto Rico.
I saw that at the end. No, and it's funny because yeah, you mentioned that, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh man, those sound like cookies. I'm like, nah, over here in New York, we have these little peepers that they come out in the springtime, and they sound like cookies,
Right, and
just a
yeah, just
different cadence. But yeah, oh my god, I can't believe that.
yeah. So for those of you who are curious,
Idiot.
just go to YouTube and just type in Puerto Rican frogs sound in jungle or something like that, and it's such a comfort. The last couple times I went to Puerto Rico, it was I would go to sleep to the sound, and it was so comforting.
And it's funny because us going over there to the islands, we love the sound, but a lot of the natives over there, they're actually really, they say that they can be really annoying.
Right, I can imagine. It's like
Oh no, I
every
love it.
single night, but I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
so let's get our takes on this. For me, first of all, the opening scene in Vietnam, was you kind of playful and normal. The bunch of soldiers just hanging around waiting for something to happen,
Right.
and then all shit just goes sideways, and there's a major battle. Of course, Jacob, our main character, played by Tim Robbins, he gets stabbed. He wakes up in the post, in the subway and so forth. That whole sequence was just terrifying and so grim and just it was pure horror. It
Yeah,
really was.
it really was. Yeah, and then well, right off the bat, I already see some weird shit going on when a couple of the soldiers start to have like a seizure,
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
go down. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Right, right. And you remember the post credit, when they discuss, because what happened was, so here's the crux of the situation, okay? Now we're going to give away a major spoiler.
Hmm.
So he basically wakes up as a postman on a subway on his way home from work.
Hmm.
And immediately starts to, later on, he starts to witness some strange stuff, faceless people, just starts having hallucinations. And this was all based on something that the US government currently still denies, that they used a chemical
Hmm.
uh, on US soldiers to make it more aggressive, make them more killer like, and so forth. And so that's what they gave him. And so when he dies, he actually dies.
Hmm.
That's a spoiler. He does, or he's dying
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
and he starts to live this alternate life. And so, and all these things, and what they're clues, letting him know what's going on. So he's kind of stuck in limbo, in purgatory,
Yeah.
between here and there, and which reminds me a lot of Dante's Inferno.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, they did.
yeah, where Dante is traveling through hell, or but in order to ascend to glory or to heaven, he needs to go through hell and through purgatory in order to
Mhm.
ascend to heaven.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. It's a journey through his own personal hell. um
And you
and
feel it too.
Yeah, you do. And so all these things that's going on, they're just clues telling him. And you have these demons that are basically, it's like, you're going to hell.
Mhm.
And it's basically, I guess you can call, the wages of war. You have to pay for what you did in life,
Mhm.
for participating in such, carnage and horror. So that's what he believes, but he's also pinned with the guilt of his son, who died before he went to Vietnam,
Yeah.
uh which is played by Macaulay Culkin, by the way.
He was so freaking adorable.
Yeah, yeah. So, what I love about this is that it's a slow-paced film. I remember, earlier, when you were before we started recording, I called you and you were still watching the movie. You're like, "Oh, this is kind of slow, man."
It was hella slow. I mean, I got the gist of it. I caught from the beginning, when he gets stabbed by the bayonet, and then you see him like bleeding out. Then all of a sudden you see him waking up from a horror, from dreaming about that. He's
Mhm.
on the subway, and then he starts trying to get out of the subway, and all of his paths are blocked. And I'm like, no,
Right. And the
I thought he was dead.
Right, right. And there's the clues start right off the bat. I mean, when he's on the train, he's walking towards the door. There's a window and it's a bunch of pennies. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you know what? And it's funny because I'm looking at that. I'm like, he probably has to put it in a certain sequence in order to
Right.
open up that door, like Silent
Like
Hill.
like Silent Hill.
I'm thinking like a freaking gamer here, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, it's kind of like, you have to pay the ferryman to cross you over the river Styx, and
Yeah.
usually coins are symbolic of carrying you over to the other side.
Let me ask you something real quick,
Yeah.
because this was my first time seeing this movie.
Yes.
And a lot of these little clues just kind of like went right over my head.
Okay.
Is this something that you need to watch again to catch
Yes,
this?
absolutely. This is a multi-viewing kind of film. You got to give yourself some space, though.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah, definitely, because it was a lot.
yeah, it's a lot, and it's very depressing. It's very dark, but
It is.
it's something that it has to be viewed several times. Not because, oh, if you didn't get it, oh, you got to, no, because it's an
The details.
experience. The details, like for example, Danny Aiello, who plays his chiropractor.
Mhm.
He's the only voice of reason in his world.
Yes.
Uh, he is
He's like a guide.
he is Virgil, like in Dante's Inferno. He's his comfort. He's his voice of reason. he cracks it when he's cracking his neck, remember? And he's like, and then he gets a flash,
Uh-huh.
of the war, and he goes, "Oh, what did you just do?" Because he saw all these faceless souls and so forth,
Mhm.
and he's like, "No, I just made an adjustment." In other words, kind of putting him back on track on what he needs to do to ascend, because his soul is in peril. He's going to hell or he's going to heaven. He's going to paradise.
Exactly, yeah, and, I think, his whole body being out of alignment, it's very metaphorical.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where he's trying to set him straight. I mean, he even looks up
Literally.
he looks up at Aiello, his chiropractor, and he says, "You look like an angel."
Mhm.
And there you go. There was another little clue.
Yes.
Um, so these faceless souls that are they're letting him know you're dead, man. You need to and you need to come with us. They're trying to drag him to hell. I mean,
Mhm.
death is all around him as he's stuck in purgatory. Again, this is basically Dante's Inferno.
Mhm.
Um, and then you have Jezzy, played by Elizabeth Pena, who was one of my major crushes.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful.
Beautiful Cuban actress. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2015,
Mhm.
very young age of 55, and it was quite a loss. Great actress. What's her name?
Jezebel.
It's basically an immoral woman who deceives. She's
Yes.
on the bad side. She's a demon trying to guide him away from the truth that'll set him free by
Yeah.
making him think he's crazy. So he continues his path to hell. So yeah, that's what she was. She was a fucking demon.
She was a temptress, yeah.
Yeah. And again, you even see that he sees the truth when they're at a party and he goes with her to this party. She's dancing, which is
Yeah.
a great fucking scene where
It
she's
is.
kind of morphs into this demon with a tail rubbing between her legs.
That is a trip.
Oh man. I mean, that blew me away. I
That
mean,
was
that
that was before CGI, wasn't it?
yes, that was all practical. I
That
mean, it
was
was
awesome.
incredible. Yeah. I mean, another clue is when Paul, his combat brother,
Uh-huh.
seeks him out because they're all in this. It's not just him going through this.
Yeah. Oh god.
And he comes to him, he basically validates, Jacob's experiences, that he's seeing all these weird people and these weird experiences, and he feels like there's something going on and he needs to get down to the truth. So,
Mhm.
there's part of, I mean, the old adage, the truth shall set you free. But also he's pinned down by the guilt of the death of his son, and of
Mhm.
course the wages of sin that still have to be paid for his involvement in this immoral war. And so, when after the ice, remember,
The
that
ice.
yeah, he goes
Oh,
into like
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, and there's a scene where he has the temperature of 106 and they bathe him in ice and all that. And when he
Mhm.
wakes up, he's
Oh,
with his ex-wife.
yeah, and he's the happiest that he's ever been.
Yeah, and she tells him, and he asks her, "Am I dead?" And she goes, "No." And because he's not dead yet.
No, he
Uh,
isn't.
the thing is that, and here's another interesting thing, while dying, because he's dying on an operating table in Vietnam, while
Mhm.
his whole life, or it's a life that he has constructed in his soul, in his mind, with Jesse, who is a co-worker. Get this is another aspect of the wages of sin that he needs to pay for, that he feels guilty for. It's not really delved into, but when he wakes up with his ex-wife and his life is quote unquote normal,
Mhm.
he goes, "Yeah, I had this strange dream and I was with a different woman. That coworker I work with, Jezzy, I was
Mhm.
with her." Now, could that be that he had been contemplating an affair or
Ooh,
had an affair with Jezzy?
that's guilt right there.
Yeah. And so, again, the wages of war, going back to that, is essentially referring to the price one pays for participating in conflict, including loss of life, destruction, economic hardship, social disruption. So all that comes under the purview of that he's dealing with. Again, because we do get a flashback of him and his son when he's teaching him how to ride a bike.
Yeah, yeah.
And that leads to him getting run over by a car and dying.
Freaking heartbreaking. No, and you know what's trippy is how Jezebel kinda, she tries to erase all of that. She's trying to take away all of his memories. Remember how she grabs all the pictures and she burns them?
Yes, yes. And she uses the excuse of because he's looking over these old pictures that is in this, in his subconscious life that he's having, that
Mhm.
his ex-wife drops off a bag of pictures and
Yeah.
he's going through them and he gets emotional. He sees a picture of his son, he starts to cry. And Jesse, instead of going, "Oh baby, what's wrong? It's okay. It'll be fine." No, she's like, and she grabs pictures, throws them away, like she burns them, and she's like, "I hate things that make you sad."
Yeah.
She's trying to distance because that's what's holding his soul close to paradise
Yeah,
because
his family is his salvation.
and in fact Danny Aiello, his
His
chiropractor.
chiropractor. Yeah, he actually mentions that, while he's
Mhm.
trying to, line them, that his wife still loves him.
Right, right. And one of the things that he tells him, because he knows that he's in danger, Aiello knows that Jacob is in danger of going to hell, hence why
Mhm.
he's guiding him on the righteous path. And he has to let go and make peace with himself. And so, and he tells him, and then at that point, the demons that are holding you down suddenly become the angels that are raising you up.
Mhm.
And that the destiny is what you make of it. He feels, again, he feels the guilt of sin for the death of his son, for
Mm.
the possibility or the actual actions of infidelity, his participation in the war, and he
Yeah.
has to let all that go. And he has to learn the truth of what happened to him. And the truth shall set you free. And he needs that truth. And and that's where he finds the peace within. He forgives himself and he lets go. And at the end, he ascends, just like Dante.
Yeah, and then, the guy who told him, basically what, that he was part of an experiment. His name was Michael, right?
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't catch that. Saint Michael,
Yes.
the wow.
And the little
Okay.
boy, what was his name?
Oh, I forgot.
Gabriel, wasn't it?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Gabriel and Michael, they're his salvation, the guardian angels.
Yes, yes.
Wow. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a multi-layered film that I'm sure we just kind of scratched the surface
My
of what's
God.
going. And it's just an amazing film. And again, major spoiler alert. At the end of the film, when he finally finds himself the peace, he goes home
Oh,
where he lived with his wife and child. He goes home, there's nobody there. And he's walking around and you see a peace overcome him. He's accepted and he's forgiven himself.
mhm.
And he walks over to the stairs and he sees Gabriel sitting there, his son, and he walks over to him. They have this really tender moment and he starts to cry. And his son tells him, "What? It's okay. We can go home now. We can
Yes.
go up." And they walk up together and they ascend. And then it cuts to the scene where you see Jacob on the gurney in Vietnam. They call it, he's passed
Yes.
away. And they go, "Wow, it's amazing." There's a certain, he has an expression of peace on his
Uh-huh.
face.
And I thought that was beautiful.
Oh man, it wasn't corny, it wasn't cheesy, it was so profound and just so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
It brought me to tears.
Well, you know what it is too, is that, going through life, we were kind of conflicted as to whether or not there is a heaven. And, when you see things like this, it really kind of gives you hope.
Yeah, it's a reaffirmation
Yes.
of something glorifying, something beautiful, even a reaffirmation of faith, even though it
Yes.
doesn't delve too much into faith. But
But
there
it's
is a scene.
there.
It's there. I mean, there's a scene where he's in a taxi cab in one scene, and he keeps looking he's in the back seat and he keeps looking at the dashboard, and there's like the ID and all that stuff and the clock.
Yeah.
And there's a crucifix there that he seems to be looking at. And it's the only thing moving in the scene, in the shot.
Right.
And so there is that aspect as well. And it's a very sad, disturbing, tragic film, but it's also there's a certain undeniable, hopeful beauty to it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, this movie really, really, really blew me away. I really didn't know what to expect when I started watching this movie.
Mhm.
So, of course, I grew impatient. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I know he's in limbo. I know I know homie's dead. You
Right.
know, Yeah, because there's so many clues pointing to that. The fact that when he goes to the doctor, they have no records of him there.
Right, right.
When he tries to get a lawyer, the lawyer tells him, "No, you were never in the army." So that right there was like, "Oh no, you're in a
This
different world. You're in a different plane. You're in
ex-
limbo." It is. Oh my god, it's
yeah.
very sad.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it is a masterpiece. It is just an incredible film. I mean, for me, now we'll get into the key standout performances or elements. First, the cinematography.
Mhm.
This washed out, drab,
Yes.
look to it. It's always cloudy. There's not one scene in there where the sun is shining.
No, it's very
Uh,
depressing.
yeah, and then you got Maurice Jarre's score,
Mhm.
which is very subtle and sad and disturbing and very haunting. The guy did Fatal Attraction. He did Dead Poet Society. He did Ghost, A Walk on the Clouds. Maurice Jarre is an amazing composer,
Right.
and I mean he's up there with the masters. And of course, I mean Tim Robbins. Fuck, he was amazing.
Oh, he really was. He was I mean, you could see, the sorrow. He fucking sold the hell out of that, you know.
Yeah, and it's true because he had done mostly comedies or lighthearted films before this, and he thought it would be a nice turn, something try something different and
Right.
and go that route. And oh fuck, did he go off way out there with this one?
Oh my god, he really did.
Yeah,
And
but
when you're watching it, like I said, I went in with, I had no idea what this movie was about.
oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, at one point you think, oh, he's just, suffering from PTSD, which, unfortunately a lot of veterans suffered from. Um,
Yes.
and so you kind of start thinking, oh, maybe that's what's wrong with him. But yeah, there's something off, and
Oh yeah.
things are just it was really beautifully done. I loved it. So
Yeah,
many layers.
yeah, and it's the kind of film that gets deep in your soul. It really permeates and gets into you. And I mean, it's a film that you masticate and chew on for days after watching it. I mean, this film will stick to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a movie I will watch again in the future, just so I can see if I can catch all those little tidbits that I
Mhm.
missed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And you know what? Like, this being that it was your first viewing, yeah, you're gonna just gloss over or just gonna go, okay, those are just plot points, and you really don't pick up on those minute details.
Mm,
And it's just a masterful script. I can see why it eventually became, Bruce Joel Rubens. It became like the top 10 unproduced screenplays in Hollywood at the time.
he knew what he had.
Oh yeah, he did know. So let's go to the budget and box office on this one.
Okay.
All right, so the budget at the time was about $25 million, which is about 60 million today. Box office was about 26.1, which is today about 63 million. So it actually, on the books, it lost money. Unfortunately, it didn't do well at all.
That's sad.
Yeah, and it wasn't wildly popular when it came out. I remember when this came out, I was first in line to see this, and I was just blown away.
Mhm.
Um, but Tim Robbins, in 2015, they interviewed him about this film, which is now considered a classic and a great film.
Right.
He felt that the reasons that it didn't do well at the box office was how the film's violence and war violence, the Vietnam stuff, didn't jibe with the national mood around that time because it was the run up to the Gulf War, and
Mm,
so people weren't really into the war thing at the time. We were already kind of weary of the motives and stuff behind the war and so forth. So that's he theorized that that's probably why the low ratings and the low box office. Well, not low ratings, but the low interest in the film,
right. Right. Exactly.
which is unfortunate because it is an amazing film. But you know what? It definitely it's in the annals of great films. Historically, and more people need to be made aware of this film.
Yeah. Absolutely. one hundred
Yeah,
percent.
yeah. So let's go into some reviews and scores on this one.
Okay.
Uh, Roger Ebert awarded the film 3.5 stars out of 4.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah, he said that the watching of this film left him reeling with turmoil and confusion, with feelings of sadness and despair. And he called it thoroughly painful and a depressing experience. But it must be said that it's been powerfully written and that it has been powerfully directed and acted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
powerful film.
well
Yeah,
said.
yeah, definitely. And so IMDb sitting at 7.5. Metascore, it has Metascore of 62. Rotten Tomatoes, critic score 72% with an audience score of 84. And Letterboxd has this at 3.8 stars out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So it definitely is a very well respected and loved film. And again, people, please, if you have not seen this, hell, if you even never even heard of it, please go see this, rent it, get it somewhere. It's an amazing film.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Now, spin-offs, remakes, and so forth. This movie was remade in 2020, and it was a disaster. They tried to
Oh.
twist it a little. Pretty much that the dead guy wasn't him; it was his brother. He was living his brother's life, so they kind of convoluted it a little bit. So it really, yeah, it this is one of those films, and I think it was remade because it wasn't well received box office wise, and it kind of gotten forgotten about. And so they're like, well, it's such a great film, we need to remake it. No, just make people aware of it. You don't, I mean, it's like kind of like saying, okay, Gladiator with Russell Crowe, directed by Ridley Scott, great film, a masterpiece, didn't do well, let's remake it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
No.
you don't do that at all.
You really
So
don't.
so let's give our ratings on this. You go first.
Okay, well, all I have to say is this movie, in my opinion, was literally a piece of art. It's one of those pictures where you look at it and you see something, you see your picture, but the more you look at it, the more details you see into it, and the more you want to look at it. So I really appreciated the hell out of it. I love the story. Very impressed. I'm gonna give it 8.5. Oh, what was it we were doing?
Dog tags.
8.5 dog tags.
Okay, fair enough. Good, solid score. To me, it's just a heartbreaking piece of art. Like you said, it's art because art is to be analyzed, is to be studied, is to be observed, is to be, looked at and broken down and so forth. There's so many moving parts to this that make this great overall picture. Just it is a damn near masterpiece of a film. But it's a heartbreaker, but it is a beautiful film nonetheless.
Yes.
So my rating on this is 9.5 out of 10 dog tags.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely an amazing film. And again, please, I can't stress enough, people, if you have not seen this, look it up. Don't go with the 2020 remake. It's from all accounts, it's garbage.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. 1990. This is the version you want to watch.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty. So with that being said, let's go with some recommendations along the line of this weird paranormal. Which, by the way, I forgot to I also wanted to mention that Jacob's Ladder is a mind fuck. I mean,
Definitely.
I mean, it just goes, it's just wild. So films along that line, I'm gonna go with a film from 2001, which is one of my favorites. It's weird, it's dark, it's beautiful, it's tragic. Movie called Donnie Darko.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yes, with Jake Gyllenhaal. That movie is one of those, again, you watch it and when you're done watching it, you're virtually silent. You're trying to, you don't know what to say. What you witnessed was something extraordinary and unique, and this is one of them. It's a great movie that just it's a trip. And the other one is a film from 1987 which stars Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro. The film is Angel Heart. This movie is a mindfuck and a half. It is dark. It plays itself out like a detective mystery, gumshoe novel, but it's laced with paranormal stuff, with voodoo, with the devil, with selling your soul, and it just takes you on this journey into something very, very fucking dark, and it has an ending which it hits you like, what the fuck?
I love those kind of movies.
Oh God, yes. We're gonna have to cover Angel Heart eventually because it is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe another Para-Wierd episode.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. So, and that's what I love. I love these kind of films. I love the slasher film. I love the ghost story. I love the exorcist kind of stuff, but these psychological horrors like this, they just do something to, I mean, they're psychological. They invade an area of your mind and reside there, and you can't escape it. And that's what's, you identify with in a really fucked up kind of way. It's an experience, and I love these kind of films.
Yeah, no, you leave from the theater, feeling, some kind of way, it affects you on so many levels. You just can't get it out of your head.
Right, exactly. And they leave you thinking. They're thinking horror, and I mean, no disrespect. Maybe I'm just old school, but a lot of the A24 horror films that are coming out now, which is great because you do have a renaissance of horror films that we've been experiencing in cinema,
Right.
which is great. But the A24 things are a bit. Me personally, I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people, but they're a little on the pretentious side and a little too obscure for me to nibble on. So, I mean, my groove is definitely these psychological horror films. If I really want to get,
Oh yes, something that makes you think. I love that.
yeah, absolutely. And this one that we just covered, Jacob's Ladder, is definitely one of them.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. So many layers, it's so deep. I loved it.
alrighty. So, we're coming towards the end of the episode now. So, letting everybody know, check in with us next week for an all new episode where we cover the genre of the week. And this genre is going to be the musical. And I know I think it was season 1. I did an episode on musicals, and it was one of the lowest rated episodes I had. I'm like, oh man, nobody likes musicals, but you know what? I want to do it again. Maybe it'll gain some traction. And we will be having a very special guest and to join us for that episode. So make sure you tune in on that. It's going to be a very fun episode.
Definitely.
So we really hope you enjoyed the show and the episode. So please help to support the podcast by giving us a nice 5-star rating, leave us a good review, or another way you can support us is simply just subscribe and or follow us on Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Audible, Boomplay, or wherever you get your podcast fix. Also, don't forget to drop by our Instagram page. We got a lot of cool stuff on there. We post a lot of interesting factoids and stuff like that. Check out our TikTok video. TikTok video. Check us out on TikTok as well. There we also post our flash reviews. We have them on Instagram as well. We also have a YouTube channel. That's where we drop a lot of our regular episodes, all of our regular episodes on as well. So all these links, they can be found in the link tree below in the show notes. So make sure you click on that. There's a lot of cool stuff. We have a merch store. We have links to previous episodes with special guests and so forth. Episodes where I or Daisy have shown up on other podcasts. A lot of great stuff. So make sure you check that out.
Yes.
Absolutely. So also you can contact us directly by email to the filmjoepod@gmail.com. Send us those questions. We love them. Rodrigo from Cali, thank you for that question that you sent us. It made me think. It made Daisy tap out. So
good question. If I had gotten it in time.
Next time I'll give it to you ahead of time.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So basically that's it. So with that being said, I'm Joe.
I'm Daisy.
And this is the Filmjoe podcast, where film talk happens.